Thank you. I'd like to start by acknowledging that the Whistler Film Festival takes place on the traditional unceded territories of the Squamish and Lil'wat Nations, and we are very honored to be part of that, the language, the culture, and history. I'm actually currently on Treaty 1 territory in Manitoba, which is the national homeland also of the Red River Métis. And would encourage you all to take a moment to reflect and with gratitude, understand our place on the land and think about where we are. I'm very, very excited to share this opportunity with the Producers Lab this year. It is a really exciting international opportunity in the lead up to our 25th edition. It's kind of crazy to think that the festival has been around for 25 years, but here we are. We will be live again in December. And that'll take place from December 3rd to 7th. So I know some of you have heard this before because I see some very familiar faces here, but the mandate of the Whistler Film Festival Society is to discover, develop, and showcase the talent. And we do this through our film festival, through the content summit that runs concurrently, and increasingly through the talent programs that have really shifted in their scale and scope really in the last 5 years. And that is really a credit to the fine talent program manager that we have in Shelley Quaid, and also to great facilitators like John Galway. So thank you to both of them for the tremendous impact they've already had on developing talent in these last few years. We've had, since 2001, since we started, we've had almost 1,500 films being presented. And as a result of that and our talent programs, we have over 3,000 alumni who are either filmmakers or talent program alumni. And again, I see some of you here today, so thank you. The results of particularly Producers Lab and the Screenwriters Lab have been absolutely tremendous. What we had always hoped is that through the mentorship and through the connections that are made in these labs, people will go out, do their work, and then come back to the festival with some new projects. And we're really excited that recently Krista Rand had brought Reuniting back, and that was a tremendously wonderful film. And also Scott Lepp, who produced Haley Rose, was also featured at the festival and had the premiere there. So it's really great to see that kind of holistic work happening. We are, of course, also grateful to the support of our private and public sector funders. The Producers Lab is being supported at this point through the Government of Canada, through their Creative Export Canada program, and through Creative BC and Telefilm Canada. This is actually part of a much bigger initiative that we started last year with, we're calling it the Emerald Lens, and we had brought Ireland as a country of focus to the festival and brought some producers over there, showcased some films. We had a great delegation as well, which included the Irish ambassador to Canada and representatives from Screen Ireland and the like. So that is actually where this starts. We are going to be taking the Producers Lab to start in Ireland at the Galway Film Fleadh in the early part of July. And the Galway Film Fleadh is very much almost a sister festival to the Whistler Film Festival. I had the privilege of going last year, and I'm also really thrilled that John is leading this. He's had lots more experience with that festival. We were also working with partners with the Film Fleadh itself, but also with Screen Ireland and the Screen Producers Ireland. One of the things that's really interesting as this whole program is coming together is that there seems to be a lot of Canadians going to Ireland this year. We are one of several delegations that will be there. We are aware that Picture NL, Newfoundland and Labrador, is taking a delegation over. PEI will also be sending some people, and the CMPA is currently got some openings. They're looking for applications for part of a delegation from the CMPA. And so we are all working together to collaborate and bring the best possible networking and professional development opportunities together. So the lab itself is also very highly competitive. We are holding space and can accommodate only up to 6 people. So we are really thrilled that you're here and really expressing this interest. We'll talk a little bit more about the requirements and what people are looking for as John goes through this. But primarily, I just wanted to say too that this is a very safe space for questions, and Shelley will tell you exactly how to ask those questions in the chat there, and she'll be moderating all of this too. I also want to do a shout out to Kirsten Andrews, who's behind the scenes helping Shelley out. So hi, Kirsten. Do you want to take it over, John?
Sure, sure. Well, thank you everybody for coming today. I was trying to figure out how many years it's been that I've been involved with the Whistler Film Festival and the Producers Lab first as a sponsor with the Harold Greenberg Fund, and then I think it's now 8 years as the facilitator. And I know many of you here have gone through the traditional Producers Lab, which we've been running for years, that always culminates at the festival in Whistler. But I'm super excited to add this co-production component to the experience. I think the um, the idea of the lab is that it helps guide some producers who are familiar with, producing domestically, maybe have done some features or some television work, know how to kind of do the logistics of producing, but maybe now want to expand the size and scope of the projects that they work on to really look towards the international market and look towards co-production. We've chosen Ireland as our country in focus, but everything that you learn in the lab will be equally as applicable to co-productions with other areas. And one of the great things about the Galway Film Flaw is that it does attract European producers and sales agents and distributors. So there'll be the opportunity to meet some people from Luxembourg or Estonia or somewhere else that you might be able to co-produce with. Um, Angela's correct. I've been going to that film festival for many years, mostly because I love it. But it's a great snapshot for the year in Irish cinema, and pretty much the entire industry goes there. It's a bit like Whistler in that it's on the West Coast, and it's a fun departure for everyone that works in Dublin or Belfast to kind of go and retreat and really just think about film for 4 or 5 days. It has some excellent panels and pitching opportunities. And the very first film that I produced after leaving the Harold Greenberg Fund was a Ireland Canada co-produced documentary that won Best Irish Film at the Galway Film Flaw, where it had its world premiere, and then it had its Canadian premiere at Whistler. So you can tell that those two film festivals are very close to my heart. So it feels perfect to be involved in this program this year.
It can't help or can't hurt that you're taking your last name from the festival.
Yes, I do not own the festival. The festival's not named after me, nor am I named after the festival. But yes, I'm an Irish citizen as well as a Canadian citizen. So, it feels good for me to go to one of my homes, I guess. But we're already starting to put the lab together. It will be a similar structure to the traditional producers lab in that it involves a mentor producer and myself helping to kind of work with you to, guide the program for you so that we can bring in components that you need to learn about or that you've expressed interest in exploring further. We'll bring in some guests who will walk you through the co-productions that they've done. And I'll show you the examples of ones that I've done. I'm currently in the midst of a German-Canada co-production that is a majority Canada, minority German, but there's different ways that co-productions can be put together. So we'll go through all the kind of nuts and bolts of that so that you're prepared to hit the ground running in Ireland. And I'll walk you through what I know of that festival, the opportunities there, and how to kind of network and navigate. Because I know it's often challenging when you go to a film festival the first time, just even figuring out where do I go? Where do people hang out? What are the opportunities? So I can let you know my experience there. This year, traditionally, the Producers Lab has focused on fiction features, but it's been open to documentary features this year because of this exciting co-production component. And so hopefully we get a variety of interesting projects that I can set up specific networking opportunities for each one based on who you need to meet.
One thing, John, that as you were saying, there are representatives from other festivals and other producers from across Europe. It is supported by media and the European marketplace as well. I had to laugh when you said Luxembourg, because we actually have, through the festival, very good ties with Luxembourg, and they have a tremendous film credit. So that is something that was caught my attention. But also, we had the opportunity to be there, and there's also US festivals. So representatives from Sundance are there, Newport Beach Film Festival and the like. So that is actually a really key part of that networking piece.
Yeah, I actually got that film, The Graceless Age, was programmed at Newport based on, meeting them at that festival. So it does happen.
Um, Shelley, did you want us to, sorry, ask some of these questions, or how would you like us to proceed?
Yeah, I'm putting some into the chat to everybody. We've got so many questions, I just didn't want to miss any. So I'd highlighted a few. I'm going to just throw you, if you guys are ready, I'm going to throw you some questions. If anybody would like to ask a question, if you use the raise your hand function at the bottom, you can see where it says react. There you can raise your hand and then just unmute yourself and ask your question. So let's start those. And while we're doing that, I'll just throw a couple questions out while we're waiting for people. Okay. So this is the big one, and I would really like both of you to weigh in on what is the criteria to be considered as an experienced producer in what we're looking for.
Okay, so we are looking for people that are ready to really take advantage of an international market. So that means that you will have had to produce some content. You have to know your way around a spreadsheet. And so we will be looking at the credits and the experience that somebody's had. It doesn't have to be as a feature film producer. It can be, have you had some episodics? Have you even had significant content online? Ideally, though, if you've had some experience in the system where you have worked with a funding agency and you've received some funding for that, that is something that will stand you in good stead.
Mhm.
And did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think ideally a person has a project that is naturally suited for co-production. It may be that through the course of, meetings at the festival, that you meet somebody who is pitching you a project to co-produce, that they're looking for a Canadian partner. But, I think the ideal candidate for the lab has a project that, we can workshop through the lab that is destined for co-production.
John, could you speak specifically about the fact that this year we're doing feature docs as well? We are getting quite a few questions about that. Just apologies if we haven't updated some of the wording, but we are accepting. Take it from here.
Yeah, for sure. And the co-production principles are the same, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. So it'll be applicable to both sides. And actually, the two co-productions I've done have both been feature documentaries, so I know that zone pretty well.
Okay. Does the applicant producer need to have an incorporated production company to apply for this?
No, I mean, obviously to make the project, you would need to have an incorporated company, but to apply for this, you do not have to have an incorporated company.
Okay, good. And then this is, I think you already addressed this, but I'm going to throw it out because we did get this a few times. Can emerging producers apply, or is this only for established producers? Or is it somewhere in between, right? Like we talked about that.
Yeah, it really is somewhere in between. One of the key things that we're looking at is really how can we develop more of those relationships between Canada and Europe, and in this case, Ireland specifically. So, again, if you've had some experience, if you've produced some work, if you think that you're ready to go and take on these meetings and to learn and look for those opportunities. One of our funders is Creative Export Canada, and they are looking for some tangible outcomes from this, not immediately afterwards, but in 6 months or a year. So that is the purpose of this, is really to build those relationships and get some projects made.
And I think we don't want a company that has already, co-produced two or three films. We want somebody that's ready to take that leap into co-production in the international marketplace, but maybe hasn't fully done so yet.
Do they need a, do they or can they have a director attached at this point?
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. And can you apply for this lab with more than one producer attached to it?
You can apply with more than one producer attached, but only one producer will be accepted into the lab. So you would have to designate that one person who's going to be at the meetings as as part of the ongoing training that goes on here. Just to step back a little bit, the Irish part is just the beginning. And John, we can talk a little bit about what the structure of that is. But so people should be very much aware that the costs of getting to Ireland are your own. We will help in facilitating letters for funding agencies and the like. And I'm going to tell you, we are still working on different funders to see if we can offset some of those costs, but I'm not going to promise that right now. But you are responsible for that. So if you want to bring one or two people to Ireland, that's great, but that's at your own cost. The program itself really is that that bespoke mentorship. We understand the project that you're coming in with. We understand your experience level, and we're facilitating the development of both you and your project for Ireland, but then it continues online and all the way through to the Whistler Film Festival, where we'll do this kind of market matchmaking and development even further. So it's a much bigger program. That said, one producer has to be the designate that will go through that and take those learnings.
Okay. No, it's just, we'd asked this a little bit before, just if you can talk about this again, about somebody's just saying like they've got a feature film, maybe slash script that's in development right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do they qualify? Like, I would think if that's the only thing they have on the go, or what would you say, John?
Yeah, if they haven't produced a film before, I think it's probably too early in their career for the lab this year. But I think it would be excellent if people qualified as a producer from their experience and the project they brought to the lab already had some provincial or telefilm development support, because it just indicates that the project is, will be able to kind of proceed to the next phase with some support.
Okay, we have a question here that says, if I have a project that's being developed as a South African slash Canada project, and they're looking for it to be like a try one with Ireland, would that qualify? Is that a good project to take?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Somebody who likes complexity, clearly, but yes.
Really, why? I think it's simple if it can be difficult.
I was busy with on another slide here, but I'm just wondering, John, when we're meeting with them in June, like when we're accepted, we've got the cohort already, and then you're going to do 3 online sort of prep sessions before Ireland. What are you hoping to cover in that? What's going to help them support there?
Yeah, that would be, the basics of co-production. I mean, ideally, we'd meet with Telefilm so that we fully understand kind of the treaty and how co-production works and the balancing between the various elements to make sure that you're eligible to be certified as a co-production. And we'd have a couple of test cases where we'd go through some projects that have already, happened, that have been co-produced, and learn from somebody else's trial by fire, and so that they're ready to have those conversations. Then ideally at the film festival in Galway, they meet a couple of potential interesting co-production partners, and we can kind of help push the project forward from there, that they have some interest in, and that we can build on that.
Yeah, that's good. So they'll be ready. Like you're gonna the whole point is to
Yeah.
prep everybody to go over together and
Yeah.
be
And I
all
think,
bond.
and because, people will have had a similar experience producing, that always in these labs, you kind of learn from each other as well. So, as various people, projects move one step forward and start to get closer, you'll support each other and learn from each other. So,
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things is that because there are so many Canadians going over at the first part of this, there's actually also a less tangible benefit of perhaps meeting other Canadians, and that could
Mhm.
be, from Newfoundland or anywhere. And, maybe there's an opening for interprovincial co-productions or, just being able to get together and meet other Canadians as well as Europeans is one of the benefits.
Mhm.
Okay, so we have a question from Christina. She says, will the program put participants directly in touch with Irish producers and production companies? And my question, just to add to that, are you doing that like prior to them going? Do they know who they're meeting with, or when do they get there?
Yeah, I think after the projects are selected, I'll start to reach out to people that I know from my network. And we've already been talking to Screen Ireland and the Irish Producers Association to try to facilitate some of those meetings ahead of time. And then, you got to learn how to work a festival. You got to learn how to bump into somebody in the line, and maybe that's the match that, is the best one.
The serendipity that happens at festivals cannot be underestimated. It really does grow that relationship, and you never know what door it'll open. But yes, there will be meetings set up in advance. You will know who you're meeting with. It is a very bespoke approach. John does a tremendous job of matchmaking the people and projects to other producers. Oh, that's a lot of alliteration. And so that will happen for Ireland. The same thing will happen at the Whistler Film Festival as we see who your, how your projects are developing. We really work to put people together that can help get the project made. And Shelley, I also want to do a shout out to you because I know you take
Mhm.
great interest in tracking where people are, not just in the program, but after the program. And if people reach out afterwards and they say, hey, do you have an introduction to this or something, we can often facilitate that. So the benefits of being in the program are live longer than the actual length of the program.
It's true. We really do. When we do say we're a Whistler family, we really are. Like we'll follow through. Okay, I've got a question here about that. Just a continuation of that is the market prep. It continues through the program, right, John? Because even though they've gone to Ireland, the next step is going to be the Whistler Film Festival. So we do
Right.
keep that going. Do you want to expand on that a bit?
Yeah, I mean that's where we, traditionally pitch to Canadian distributors and sales agents that'll help you trigger telefilm. So, the Mongrels and the Game Theories and Vortex and that type. Some of you may have those contacts already, but it's always good to kind of, have an opportunity to rekindle those, I guess, or, reconnect with those people. So that's what will be kind of happening between the Galway Film Flaw and Whistler. And then we'll bring in some other guests to help you, hone your pitch package and depending on what's needed for each project.
And that is amazing. And like we always tell everybody, there's deals made in those Zoom rooms when we do these breakout rooms and we bring in all of these guests in October and we cycle you through and you have 15 minutes and you're pitching. By then you should be really prepared. But there's deals made in those rooms that go on to be, to from script to screen. Like we have that proven track record. Okay, I just want to get into a little bit about the lab participation and the structure. And something people ask is if they're allowed to choose their own mentor and how the mentorship might work, John, for this year.
Yeah, I think this year there's going to be myself and one other mentor. We'll try to match you up with, the best fit, that's for sure.
Yeah, we won't know till we actually pick our
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a combination of feature film and feature documentary. We want to make sure that we've got the right people that have experience in that. So stay tuned on that.
Yeah.
And we have a question in the classroom portion and the trip to Flaw, and that's how you pronounce it, right, John? Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, the film flaw.
Very Canadian. Can a writer director who's also a producer on the project join in with the main producer for activities? So I guess if they're over there with them, are they allowed to be part of that?
Yeah,
Like,
if they've paid their way to go over to
yeah, yeah,
Galway, yeah, yeah, yep.
yeah. It's in that kind of market that works, right?
Yeah, they may not have if they don't have a festival pass, then they won't be able to get into some of the official, festival events. There's panels and there's different feature film spotlights and that kind of things, but they should just get a pass.
Yeah, and I suppose if there was something specific, you'd have to kind of cross that bridge when you get there
Yeah.
and see
Yeah.
how that plays out. We have a question about how similar the lab is going to be this year to previous year's labs in terms of the content, which we've always done really well with writing better applications for national funders and stuff. Will that still come into play this year, John?
There'll be some element of that. But yeah, if somebody's been a graduate of the lab, we'll try to make sure we're not covering the same zone. That's the idea here, is that you're kind of more experienced in going through this lab, so that we don't need to cover some of the kind of 101 stuff that we might have done traditionally in the producers lab. And the focus really will be more on co-production.
And we do in all of our labs and programs, we pride ourselves on doing individual, like thinking of everybody individually and how can we help them move their project forward.
I will
Um,
still do my "you have to know your audience and know it now, not later" speech.
Are you going to do waterfall? Your
I'll,
famous
I'll I can do
waterfall?
the recoupment waterfall if
Yeah,
people
that's good.
still need to
Good.
go through that.
And I don't know if Shelly Thompson's still in the room, but hey, Shelly.
Hi, I'm
I
still in the
always
room.
think of you when he does the waterfall.
Yes, so do I.
Do you have a question,
When I
Shelly,
think
while
of the
we hear
waterfall.
you? While
Pardon
we hear
me?
your we hear your lovely voice. Do you have a question about this at all?
I don't really. It's just
Okay.
it's a great initiative, and the project that I have, which I'm on the fence about, would be a perfect fit. But I'm just I guess my only question would be, I know it needs a kind of big rewrite. And even to get it to its best place at the moment. Um, and I don't know how fast that would be, because you're expecting applications. Just tell me the date again.
The deadline is the May 15th.
Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
no.
But I mean, that raises an interesting question. Maybe this wasn't your question, Shelley, but true co-production is supposed to meaningfully involve both sides of the project.
Mhm.
So if something is, has a solid draft but needs more writing, it might be the right stage to go and, find that partner. So
Oh,
that,
that's interesting, because that's certainly the truth, that the bits that I'm um uh there's a big Irish component in this, and it really needs a smart, funny Irish writer,
yeah.
involved. And that would really be what I was looking for, to be a co-writer. Um, so yeah, maybe.
Well, I think that actually, to John's point, you already know what it needs, and
Yeah.
that would be what you're going to look for in this kind of initiative.
Yeah, I want Sharon Horgan though.
Sure.
I'll turn off my picture
That's
again.
good. Thanks, Shelley. We have a question here from Sina. It says, for projects in early development, it's a feature doc. What materials are you looking for for a successful application?
Mhm.
Is a full script required? Pitch materials, treatment, lookbook, sample footage, proof of concept, etc. sufficient?
I think those are all sufficient.
I think so too, but
The key thing there is just to know that you have access and to your documentary subject.
Yeah.
there is some kind of treatment, right? You would require for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, docs are a bit challenging because some of them really are more exploratory than others, but I think
Right.
Angela's right. If you have your key concept and access to the subjects that you'll need to tell it, that's probably sufficient.
Okay. Here's a question for Angela, and it's a little tricky. I think I suggested they do both, but if someone was a successful applicant for both the CMPA Galway delegation and the Whistler Lab delegation, would we have to pick one over the other, or are we collaborating enough that that's okay? Like if they got into both, or
Sorry, I don't think I got the question.
well, if somebody has applied to be part of the CMPA delegation
Oh,
going
yeah,
to
yeah.
Ireland and they have applied to be with ours. How's that work?
That would be an ideal situation. We'll have to cross that bridge when we get there.
That's what I said. I said, do it. Like, apply to both, you know, and see how this all plays out. We're not on the same thing, but we are collaborating on some things and things like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, from what I know, and I know that their plans are still evolving. So they've got a slightly different approach because it really is only the Irish delegation, and they've got a really specific bent on that. So they're going to do slightly different things than we are, but we're looking at how we can collaborate on some of those things. And to be honest, most of that is the networking events, and the hosting and that kind of piece. So, from what I know about their program, it is slightly different, but it is really only geared towards Galway. So with our program, that's the first step, and then it still continues all the way through with the online, the sessions, the mentoring, et cetera, and drives to the Whistler Film Festival.
okay, good. Okay, so we've got might be some quick questions here. How in depth of a chain of title do you need for a feature doc? Angela, do you know that?
Well, you have to have the right to make it.
Right, so they'd have to apply with saying they have that, right? Okay. The successful video pitch look like? It says, does it include a sizzle? That's not what we're looking for is a video of you saying why you would like to be in the program. If you do happen to have a sizzle reel of some sort, definitely include the link to that, but that's not what that means. So, yeah, just so that we get to hear you and why you're interested in doing this. And John, are you looking for any particular budget range?
No. Co-production is challenging to do at a low budget range because there's additional costs and complications to doing a co-production, and also you end up splitting producer fees and overhead. So, if you don't have much to begin with, you don't want to split it too far. But most co-productions start, the smallest you'd want to do it is probably $1 million feature, but most of them are a bit higher than that.
Yeah. And there's enough people that, if you have any of these questions too about that, it's just ask
Yes.
around too. And then this, I'm not sure about this, but can you apply keeping the talent to watch program in mind for financing? I don't know if that's applicable for this or
Yeah,
what.
it would be tough to co-produce for talent to watch. I'm not sure if anyone's ever done it. That $1 million level, I should say, that's for fiction films. The one of the docs I did that was a co-production was 400,000. That was extremely tight, but talent to watch, I guess. I don't know if I've seen one that was an international co-production yet.
Okay.
I'm just thinking out loud here, Shelley, but I'm also wondering if people have some projects that they've already created. Like if you've got a co-production idea, that's one thing, but another opportunity, if you already have some things that are out there, if you're looking for European partners for distribution or the like, that's sort of a spin-off benefit of this.
And put that down on paper, like make sure that we know this, that we know why you want to go and all that kind of information. Just getting into a little bit more of the things about applying is who's reading and evaluating the team and the scripts, or sorry, it says the team, but the scripts being submitted. Angela?
Who's reading and evaluating them?
Yeah, like I always say key industry people, and that's because we change it up, right?
Yeah, we change it up. So John reads them all, of course. And then we have a jury behind the scenes there that is reading the scripts as well, and they're giving us feedback on it.
And then this follows up with that is, do we get the feedback? And no, only for the people who make it into the lab. We just don't have the bandwidth to be able to compile and send and all that in this program. So
yeah, and one of the beautiful things about us really amping up our talent development offerings is that we have now 13 talent development programs with a lot of applications. So really, it's a beautiful thing, but it also does limit our capacity to provide that feedback. There's just a large volume of it. So only to the people who are accepted.
And Angela, I know you will be able to word this lovely. Are there recommended sources of covering the lab tuition fees?
Yes,
and
there are.
travel, etc.
Yes. So, I mean, we're aware of several opportunities, and I encourage you as producers to become aware of those as well. So, to be honest, as part of the production even process is to see what those sources are. But things like the Canada Council, they do have travel for this kind of thing. Provincial agencies, Telefilm does have some opportunities there. We have, as much as possible, alerted provincial agencies that we have this program, and we would really love it if they could consider it favorably. That being said, we have no influence on what their final decisions are with the financing, but all the provincial agencies know that we're running this program, and it's different for wherever you are in the country. And so that's one of them. We will supply letters of support. And if you are an Indigenous candidate for this lab, the Indigenous Screen Office is definitely your go-to. They have a very robust travel support available. But with all of these, as soon as you know that you are eligible or that you've been accepted into the lab, make the next application your travel funding.
And even if it's confidential, most of the places that you are reaching out to, they know that there's a confidentiality here before it's been announced. So they will work with you. Don't wait until, you can just sort of say confidentially, this is what's happening. Could I get funding? And be creative. I often, every year, I kind of send something out to the people saying, hey, try this. But anyway, RBC actually has a scholarship for anyone 29 and under. It's $1,500, and it's just cash, and it's as long as it's connected to something like this, or even school, like, anything like that. Just investigate things like that. There's money to be had. You just kind of have to look. So if you look that RBC scholarship, you'll see we've had several of our participants get that scholarship.
Yeah, and think of just a reminder that this is an export development program. So within different provinces or different municipalities, there may actually also be like export development funding, because it does speak a little bit to if you have an incorporated company that often has a different support available. So think a little bit outside of what the industry funds are and see if there's some more export funding and the like.
And something else that I've seen happen with our group is it was through one of the funding places, but as long as the participant agreed to give like a weekend workshop or something for the company, they sponsored them as far as their tuition. They said, yeah, but you have to give back. So, I mean, be prepared to approach people like that saying, listen, I'm going on this amazing thing. I'm willing to do a talk when I get back. Maybe you'd be able to do something. It's just like to try to be creative and give back yourself and see what happens. Okay, and I'm just going to throw out a couple more questions. We're coming down to the wire here. Are you open to projects not shot in Canada, but co-production deals? Or did you already talk about that?
I just want to go back to your previous question around the funding. So one thing to note is that we do have a room block already reserved at a very good rate. So that is something that we've already ensured that there's discounted rates. So that's just something that will help that. And I said it earlier, there's no guarantees, but we are looking for additional ways that we can help support the travel pieces of this. They just haven't materialized, and I'm not going to promise anything, but we are looking for that kind of support as well.
When you said
yeah.
when you said hotels, do you mean just Galloway, or do you mean Whistler as well?
We have deals with Whistler, but right now we're really just focusing on the Galway, but we do have partner deals within Whistler.
That's all good. We did the best we can to help out here. And then there's just a last Ireland one. Will transportation be provided within Ireland to and from the airport festival venues? Is that just all part of the wait and see? Like, I do know we have to wait till we have our cohort. That the cohort's going to hear as much as we can as it happens. So stay tuned.
Yeah. Yes, we are looking at some options there right now. Right now, no. It is very easy to get WestJet flies direct to Dublin, and then there's a bus that goes directly from the Dublin airport to Galway. The hotel that we have booked, it's a bit of a walk to the site. It's a beautiful walk though, and So it can be walked, and cabs are plentiful. Galway's actually a very pedestrian friendly town.
Yeah, you just might want to bring some rain gear.
Yeah.
Really?
I have
Uh,
I have a quick question. I don't know if it's already
sure.
been asked or answered. If the applications are May 15th, when are you expecting to let cohort know by?
Within 2 weeks, maybe
Yeah, you know what? We hit the ground running with this as we were just waiting for things to fall into place. So we are going to do it really quickly, and carefully. Like it was the same process. We're just doing it a little bit quicker. And so we should know by the end of May what's happening. At that point, it would be get your funding in place. The first, I think it's June 12th is our first online get together. Those get togethers are only like a 2.5 to 3 hour maximum on those days that we are going to do that. It's not a full day. So anyway, we've got that. Plus we'll be in touch the whole time through. So I think it's really important because Angela, you were explaining to me too about passports and what's important about that. Could you explain that?
You have to make sure that your passport is valid for at least 6 months after the date of travel, otherwise you won't get into the country. So make sure that you've got a valid passport, and make allowances for that. Probably just a good idea to have a valid passport.
And they don't need a visa, do they, John?
No,
Nothing like that. Like nothing's going to be a surprise. Just
no,
passport.
and Ireland is a member of the European Union, so that they use euro. It's technically the only country in Europe that has English as one of its official languages, now that the UK is no longer part of Europe, or whatever the UK is. Um, so yeah, you'll just do some currency exchange.
And I just want to remind people that the deadline is May 15th. But it's, just before midnight, make sure that it's in. We do not accept late applications. It's shut down. You won't be able to submit. Getting in earlier is way better because we just had this with our screenwriters lab. There were some technical difficulties on people's end, and it was like they're trying to get answers. It's too, I wasn't at my computer at that late hour. So anyway, just try to get it in as soon as you can. Cece, did you want to ask a question? If I'm saying that right?
Yeah, hello, I'm an Irish and Canadian citizen, so this is like the perfect lab for me, but I'm more of a writer director and newer to producing. I've produced like 3 shorts and 2 music videos, and yeah, I'm just wondering, I just want to ask about the marketing and distribution plan. Like what would you expect to see in that? Like, is there a specific format that you're looking for that, or just some info on that? Yeah.
Yeah, not a specific format, and I recognize it's early on in these projects, lifespan, so that you may not have any marketing or distribution attached this early on. But really, we're trying to make sure that you have a firm knowledge of, the audience demographic that you're going after, and ways to reach them. I always say it's like, where does your demographic live? Where do they live online? Where do they live? Why do they go to the cinema? Why would they come to see your film?
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
And Allison, you have a question?
I do. I think it was kind of partly answered, but then there's always a second question to my questions. If I'm applying through Whistler and my producing partner is applying through CMPA and we both get it, can we have 2 producers for the same project?
I would think so, wouldn't you?
I would think that is a winning combination.
I love that answer. Thank you.
No, that's good. And if people, I was trying to post the key dates into the chat, but it looks all wonky. So if you go to our website, go back to the Producers Lab, double check the key dates. You must be able to attend Ireland. It's part of if you're chosen, you're chosen because we want to give you the opportunity. You have to, once you get back from Ireland, there's the tuition involves the second part, the phase 2, which is the going a little deeper into the marketing and setting you up for those pitching that we set up in October. And that of course leads us into the festival prep, and then the festival's in December. You'll get a complimentary pass for that. You know, so it's, you have to be able to go to everything. So if it's something that you know, you're not going to be able to, we would just say maybe wait till next year and see what happens. Is there any more questions? No?
Shelley, you asked one question that I don't think we answered, which was, you know, does it have to be shot in Canada?
Mm,
You know, because it's a co-production, one would expect that there might be shooting in certainly both Canada and Ireland. And a documentary, of course, it could probably shoot anywhere. And there are allowances within the treaty for shooting in territories that aren't one of the two co-producing countries.
okay, good to know. Okay, I don't see any more questions. So any last words? I'm going to start with John. Do you have anything that you would like to say to the group as they're applying? They've got applications are in, like, it's not too long before they're coming in. What would you like to say?
Yeah, I think one of the keys this year will be really how this will help you advance your company and your career, why you're kind of ready to take, you know, this next step, and how co-production, you know, specifically will help the project that you're bringing to the lab.
Okay.
And
And Angela.
I'm just, first of all, really excited at the interest that's being shown in this program. It really is a step up for us as an organization in terms of being able to expand our international presence and provide those opportunities for Canadian producers to get out into the global marketplace. For obvious reasons, it's much more important for us in the Canadian landscape to make those connections with Europe and in other places. So we are being strongly encouraged to do that, and really do thank our funders through the Creative Export Canada, Creative BC, and Telefilm Canada. So this is still an evolving partnership, and we are working very closely with the CMPA to see how the actual program will evolve at Galway. And also, to be honest, the people in Galway are the nicest people. So it's going to be a great experience.
Yeah.
That is super. If anybody has any questions, you can email me. My email address is on the website, but it's just squade@whistlerfilmfestival.com. If I don't know the answer, I will reach out and find out somebody who does. And like I said, try to get your application in early. It will be competitive, and it just gives us a lot more time to look at your application for sure. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone. And I put in the chat, the recording will be on the website. We have a YouTube channel, be on there. And the questions that I've been compiling, I'm just gonna clean them up, and then they too will be posted. Thank you to Kirsten. Kirsten's in our marketing team, and you will get to talk to her. She's gonna be promoting everybody. And it was great that you could come out today. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Shelley.
Thanks, Shelby.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Brenda.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Louise.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.